the feast here today of St.Alexis. And so today we'll not read the Epistle and Gospel. The Epistle and Gospel, of course, the Gospel speaks about blessed whoever leaves his father or his mother or his wife or his home for my sake shall receive 100-fold here below and eternal happiness in heaven. And Alexis is one of the saints that left his wife, so that's his claim to fame. So Saint Alexis, when he was on the day of his marriage, he loved his wife. He loved the woman that he was going to marry. He had no trouble with her. He married her, and on the night of the marriage, he left her inviolate and he ran away. So he left his wife, and he then lived 17 years in complete obscurity. And when he ran away completely. He changed his name, and he went living as a beggar throughout the land. And then he was discovered, found out who he was. So then he ran back to his father's house as a beggar. And his father received him in his house because he was generous to beggars, but did not know that it was his son. And he lived another 17 years with his father not knowing that it was his son, still looking for him. And so he lived in complete obscurity. And then he wrote a little letter before he died, and saying that he was who he was, and his father didn't realize who he was at his death. And so we have here one of the many. Remember, one thing about the lives of the saints is that there is a great variety amongst the saints. And St. Thomas Aquinas says the reason for this is that God has infinite ways of showing his goodness, infinite aspects to his divine love, infinite aspects to his divine truth, infinite aspects of everything about him. And since he can't show one aspect in any saint, or one aspect in any flower, or any lion, or any creature, he made an infinite number of creatures to show forth his goodness. We did the same thing amongst the saints. There's such a great variety amongst the saints, and Alexis is one of them. So he left his wife, and she didn't know where he went on the day of the wedding, and lived in complete obscurity, and was a sign of the great humility of God. Because as Saint Jerome points out, and look at the miracles that happen every day. We see secret miracles happen every single day. Where there is a seed, and God makes it grow into an oak. And he always operates in the background, and the seed grows into a great oak. And a little bitty baby grows into a great lion, or a great bear, or a great man, or whatever it might be. And all done, God operating secretly in the background. And hence we see that Alexis, one of those saints, showing that how God, on the one side, he is to be praised. On the other side, he likes to operate in the secret in the background. Because God is under everything. God is above everything. God is in everything and through everything. There's no place where God is not. And so Alexis, one of the saints. Today, rather, we'll read from the breviary, not the story of Alexis, but what is read in the breviary after his short life, I just explained to you, or a short explanation of his life. What St. Gregory the Great says about them from the book of Morals, on the book of Job. The simplicity of the just man is laughed to scorn, from St. Gregory the Great. This is the wisdom of this world, to hide one's feelings by artifice, to veil one's thoughts in words, to make falsehood appear truth, and the truth falsehood. Certainly this prudence young men learn by experience, and boys pay to learn it. Those who know it take pride in it, looking down on others. Those who know it not humbly and timidly admire the others who know it. This evil of duplicity, veiled under an honorable name, is esteemed by them, and perversity of mind is called good breeding. This wisdom will have its votaries seek after the highest dignities, rejoice in the vanity of earthly glory, and repay with interest any injuries they may have received. It teaches them never to give way to others while they have strength to resist, and to obtain by a feigned goodness what they cannot by open wickedness. Whereas, on the contrary, the wisdom of the just is not to practice dissimulation, to speak what is in one's heart, to love the truth as it is, and to avoid falsehood, to do good without looking for return, and gladly to suffer evil rather than to inflict it, never to seek revenge for an injury, and to think it a gain to suffer reproach for the sake of the truth. But this simplicity of the just is laughed to scorn, for the wise of this world look upon the purity of heart as foolishness. Whatsoever is done by innocence seems to these carnal minds merely stupidity, and whatsoever is approved by truth is to them but folly. And what is more foolish in the eyes of the world than to make our words express our thought, not to use dissimulation, not to repay injuries with abuse, to pray for those who speak evil of us, to abandon our possessions and seek after poverty, not to resist him who takes from us that what is ours, and to offer the other cheek to him who smites us. And so this wisdom of the world that St. Gregory speaks about, which in healthier times, everyone knew this wisdom. The wisdom of the world, the wisdom of dissimulation, the wisdom of, how do you make it in the world? By perversity of heart. This wisdom of the world, to hide one's feelings by artifice, to veil one's thoughts in words, to make falsehood appear truth, and the truth falsehood. This prudence young men learn by experience, boys pay to learn it, and those who know it take pride in it, and those who don't humbly and timidly admire those who do. So you have three kinds of people. Those who are knowledgeable in this wicked wisdom, those who try to learn this wicked wisdom, those who pay to learn this wicked wisdom, and those that are not good in it, and they admire and want to imitate those who are. These are the options of modern hearts. But what's happened in our times is that this which is known to be sin by any man of reason is now considered virtue. And it is now considered virtue, and it has found itself in Catholic tradition. It's found itself throughout the entirety of the Catholic Church. It's found itself everywhere in the world. This wicked wisdom. And so that St. Gregory describes it. The wisdom of the just is not to practice dissimulation. This wisdom will have its votaries seek after the highest dignities, rejoice in the vanity of earthly glory, and repay with interest any injuries that they may have received. So if someone attacks you, you repay with interest, says St. Gregory. Someone gives you a slap, you shoot them. Somebody says a bad word to you, you destroy their reputation. Someone slights you, you try to kill them. We always repay with interest. This is the wisdom of the world. And this wisdom is now believed to be an obligation. We hear about it many times. Don't let anyone attack you. Stand up for your rights. This is one of the great evils and great lies of our modern world. And it is found amongst Catholics. It is found in our church. We must stand up for our rights. We are not to do good to those that hate us, do good to those that persecute us. We're not to follow the gospel, as St. Gregory says, but he speaks these words in the year 600 A.D. He speaks about the wisdom of the world. The wisdom of the world. This wisdom is all around us. Only it has gotten more deep into our blood. And we believe that we're innocent when we live by this wisdom. Those who live by this wicked wisdom of the world, this dissimulation, never say what is in your thoughts. Never express your feelings. What you cannot get is done by wickedness, you do by feigned goodness. So whenever you try to force someone to do your will, and if they won't do it, then you switch to being nice. You switch to being kind in order to get them to do your will, in order to get them to do your bidding. And what is the rule? We are going to advance ourselves to the highest dignities. We're going to defend our rights. And the real reason that motivates us is that we really think that we are God. It's that simple. St. Paul says, their God is their belly, and we are in the time of the idolatry of man. This idolatry of man has gotten very deep in all of us. And remember, the Antichrist is the man that will call himself God. If a man comes around here today in a normal time and says, I am God, we will say he's crazy. And we will put him to death if he tries to spread his foolishness. But if every man already believes he's God, and if every man already thinks himself as God, and then a man comes and says, I am man and I am God, we will believe him. And so how do we prepare our hearts to accept the Antichrist? And how do we prepare our hearts to reject him? The way to prepare your heart to accept the Antichrist is to simply care about yourself first, to defend your own rights, to make sure that you are not tread upon by anyone else. Like we see the tough guys, they got "Don't tread on me" tattoos, and the "Don't tread on me." Don't tread on me. Where does it come from? It comes from Satanists, and it's a snake that says, "Don't tread on me." Who is the snake speaking to? The Blessed Virgin Mary. And this is a Masonic symbol of Satanists. And they say, "Don't tread on me." And now it becomes a symbol in America of don't tread on me. Don't let anybody walk all over me. I've got my rights. I've got my independence. And I'm going to defend my rights. And when they come after me, they might get me, but I'm going to pull out my pistol and my machine gun and my AK-47 and my M16 and AR-15, and I am going to blow one guy's brains out, and then they can get me. But I'll have gotten one guy before you die and burn in hell, and they get you. And by the way, you're not a good shot. You won't get them. They'll get you first. But the fact is, there are many souls today in Catholic tradition, in the Catholic Church. They dissimulate. They dissimulate. And why do they dissimulate? In order to achieve their goals. We find this, for instance, in Catholic tradition, some of the hallmarks of this behavior, which is preparing for the Antichrist. The majority of the Sedevacantists. What do? When you come to a CMRI chapel or a Sedevacantist chapel, they always tell you, you don't have to be Sedevacantist. They don't tell you what is in their heart. They don't tell you what is in their mind. St. Gregory says, this is the wisdom of the world. And then they say, well, you don't have to. It's not important. We don't even talk about it most of the time. And then you come to the church, and after a period of time, you slowly learn. Do you know that the Pope, as St. Barbara Bellarmine says, that if the Pope loses the faith, he's not the faith, and he can't be a Pope, and cum ex apostolicos, and so on. But I'm not saying that he's not the Pope, but he must not be. Next thing you know, you become the Sedevacantist. We're used to this way of thinking, and we see the success of it. Those who are not holding the truth use this method very effectively. Don't tell people what is in your heart, as St. Gregory says. Don't tell people the honest truth, as St. Gregory says. This is called foolishness. And this foolishness, now Catholics believe that if we do this, we are foolish. You can't tell everybody that the new Mass is bad. Now the Society of St. Pius X imitating the same error. We find in the Society of St. Pius X, we're going to go to all the people in the Novus Ordo, and we're going to go to all the people that are following the erroneous ways of the modern world, and we're not going to tell them the truth. We're going to gently bring them to the truth. We're going to first tell them positive things, and we're not going to tell them the truth. We're not going to lay out the truth clearly. And when we tell them positive things, they'll begin to like us. And after they begin to like us, then we will tell them, oh, did you know that Vatican II is really quite bad? It's not just a matter of abuses, but it's actually worse than that there's actually errors in the council, perhaps even heresies. Well, you don't say that on day one because they'll run away. This is dissimulation, says St. Gregory the Great. So that man